So the last part of question 2 now says, give 2 limitations of GDP as a measure of welfare. All right, GDP and social welfare for question 2E. GDP accounting rules, so I have the answers here. GDP accounting rules do not adjust for production that pollutes the environment. The more production there is, the larger is GDP, regardless of how much pollution results in the process. So that's one answer. So when the government, when they are calculating GDP, they don't care about how much pollution occurred in the country in terms of welfare. So if you are really calculating GDP, you're supposed to also put into the consideration the effect of pollution on the environment, on the welfare of the country. The second one, GDP also has something to say about the distribution of output among individuals in a society. It does not distinguish, for example, between the case in which most output goes to a few people and in which output is evenly divided among all people. So GDP also doesn't look into that. So when they are calculating GDP, meaning all of the goods and services produced in Jamaica, all they're just looking at is all goods and services made in Jamaica. But GDP needs to look also at the amount of pollution those goods and services that were made caused, right, contributed to Jamaica. The quality of the air, the environment, right? GDP doesn't look into that, right? The third point, GDP is also neutral about the kinds of goods an economy produces. So that's another limitation of GDP. And then the final one, GDP ignores many transactions of the underground economy. Illegal activities. Alright, so GDP doesn't calculate all of that, doesn't take that into consideration. Okay, clear? Then we move on to question 3. Let's just go back to what the question is saying. So question 3 says right here, this year, for Reggae Song Fest, organizers have contracted with Khalifa, Future, and Jason Derulo to perform at the concert. 2 more international artists than they had last year. Advise the Minister of Finance on the economic impact of contracting these additional foreign artists to perform in Jamaica. Make sure to discuss the impact on imports. So look at what the question is asking us. Make sure to discuss the impact on imports, export, output, and trade balance. Use graph where necessary for 15 marks. So just to keep it simple, they said the government of Jamaica now bringing in 2 new artists into Jamaica to come and perform. And when people coming from foreign, a lot of people going to come to Jamaica, do we agree? Like when, for example, when Celine Dion came to perform at Jazz in Montego Bay, right? People came all from America, from Canada, because people even came from Africa, right? From other Caribbean islands, because what? That might be a once in a lifetime they might get to see her, right? Since they are able to see her in Jamaica. So when an artist like that is coming, 2 artists coming to Jamaica, people coming from overseas. So in very simple language, if people like that are coming from overseas to perform in Jamaica, what do you think will happen to Jamaica, to imports coming into Jamaica? Do you think it will increase or decrease? You think it will increase? Let's try and break it down. What about Jamaican export? Do you think it will increase or decrease? Exports out of Jamaica. All right, let's try and keep it simple. Let's try and keep our analysis simple. When an artist is coming to Jamaica and they are bringing in a lot of crowd like that, people coming from Trinidad, Bahamas, Barbados, and come and watch them in Jamaica, Jamaica has to increase the amount of output so that people can consume more. Do we agree? The amount of output in Jamaica has to go up. Places like Island Grill have to produce more food for them to eat. Do we agree? So the output has to go up. All the hotels on the North Coast will be filled. Do we agree? Because what? They have to make our hotels available for all the people coming in, tourists. Likewise, they have to produce more food to feed those individuals. So the output in Jamaica will do what? Will increase, will have to increase. Just looking at it from a simple point of view. Output will have to increase. Likewise, when those people come to Jamaica to enjoy Jamaica, Jamaicans will be able to sell them Jamaican souvenirs so that they can carry back home. So Jamaican export will do what? Increase. Because those people then want to come and enjoy Jamaica. That's the reason why they are coming here. So Jamaican export will increase. Somebody who already has a Levi's jeans from America coming down to Jamaica won't buy Levi's jeans again in Jamaica. They would like to buy Usain Bolt's t-shirts to take back to America. So Jamaican export will increase, imports will decrease. Is that clear? And once import decrease, export increase, and Jamaican output expands or increase, wouldn't that result in a favorable trade balance for Jamaica? Is that clear? So that's basically what my answer is going to say. The question says, make sure to discuss the impact on imports, exports, output, and trade balance. So now let's now look at the answer. Let's try and make sure we answer everything that the question is asking us. So right here I have the two international artists' presence at the Sunfest will result in economic growth. Jamaica going to grow because a lot of tourism coming into Jamaica, right? Things getting better for Jamaica. So it's going to result in economic growth for the country. Economic growth is an increase in the total output of an economy. Think about this. When a lot of people coming into Jamaica to come and enjoy the artists, Jamaica has to produce more food to feed those people. They have to provide accommodation where those people are going to stay. And that is going to make Jamaica to employ more Jamaicans to work. And the economy going to grow. So in terms of a diagram, a graph, I have food right here. This is food that the people are going to eat. And then I have other goods like souvenirs, Usain Bolt t-shirts, and so on, all Jamaican products, right? So if initially we were right here, and now that the economy is growing, output going to increase. So there's economic growth, so economy expands, it goes outwards. So I said right here, from the diagram above, which we saw already, the presence of the two additional artists will lead to economic growth in that there will be an increase in the amount of tourists coming to Jamaica. The increased number of tourists at the Sunfest will increase the amount of output, do we agree? Produced in terms of goods and services required during the period. So they're going to have to employ more people to work at the hotels to assist with the tourists. To assist the tourists, right? There will be an increased demand for Jamaican export products, while imports will fall, right? People now coming to Jamaica to buy Levi's jeans because they can buy that in their country. They are coming to buy Jamaican products, Usain Bolt t-shirts, Bob Marley different kind of Jamaican souvenirs that is out here. So Jamaican export will increase, imports will fall. The overall effects, right? The overall effect will lead to a favorable balance of trade for Jamaica. It can be seen from the diagram above that output of goods and services in the country shift outwards. That is, more export of Jamaican products is demanded than imports, which increases output and a favorable trade balance for the country. So it means that Jamaica is able to sell more exports than imports. Right? Is that clear? So that's basically what the question is asking. It asks us for four things: the effect on imports, the effect on exports, the effect on output, and the effect on balance, trade balance. Is that clear? So when you are answering your question, you have to ensure that you are specific. Go straight to the question. Make sure you are answering what the question asks you to answer. You know what the question is asking. Is that clear? First question.
What if they started out looking at the market for foreign exchange? Since I'm getting 2 new articles coming into the country, then you'll have to pay them in US dollars, whether it's US dollars.
Yes.
So if you look at it, started it on that way,
basis.
You would need more
foreign currency.
Right.
But remember, the people who are coming to Jamaica from Trinidad, from Bahamas, from Barbados, all of those people are bringing in US to Jamaica to come and spend out here. So they still want to spend it on output produced in Jamaica. So Jamaican output will still expand. Exports for Jamaica will increase because they are buying Jamaican products to take back to Bahamas, Trinidad, and Belize. And imports will fall, which will still lead to an increased trade balance for Jamaica. Okay? And then question 4 now, which is the final question on this paper, said, for the economy of Jonestown, the level of income is 25 billion. Taxes amount to 7 billion. Consumption is equal to 5 billion. The trade deficit is 2 billion, and government spending is equal to 10 billion. We are now required to A, calculate the level of investment for 5 marks. B, suppose the fiscal deficit worsens to 6 billion. What is the new level of investment for 3 marks? C, sketch the movement in B on a diagram of the market for loanable funds. And we already know what a loanable fund is, right? At this money they can lend us. And D, what happens to the rate of interest and the quantity of loanable funds for 2 marks. So now let's now look at this final part now. So we have right here for question 4, we are using the national income identity. Right? And I'm sure if you look at this, you will have seen something like this on your tutorial paper under, I think it was inflation or finance, whereby they ask us to basically show that investment comprises of domestic savings, export, and government deficits. Right? It's somewhere in your tutorial paper from class. So you have this. So investments is equal to, right, combination of private, domestic savings. So this part, private, domestic savings, which is this part here. Foreign savings, which is import minus export, and less the government fiscal deficit, which is this part. So all we just need to now do right here Using the equation investment, they ask us to calculate the level of investment in the country. We just plug in the values. So our Y value from the question paper was 25 minus the government tax, which is 7. Consumption was 5 plus import minus export they gave us was 2. Then government was 10. Government expenditure was 10 minus the tax was 7. And when you work this out, this and this is 12 minus 25 give us 13 plus 2 minus 3. And we end up with 15 minus 3, we have 12 billion. That's straightforward, right? We just plug in the values and working it out. Then they now ask us, right? They now ask us, right here, the government deficit here was what? 3. Everybody with me? The government deficit here was 3, right? But for part B, they now say, what about if, instead of it being 3, instead of this being 3, what about if the government deficit worsens to 6 instead of 3? What effect will this have on investment? So initially, government deficit here was 3, right? But they said if instead of this being 3, if it worsens and it's now 6 billion, what effect will it have on investment? So all of this remains the same. 25 minus 7 minus 5. This part gives us 13. We bring down the 2 right here. And then this part, now instead of this part being 3, is now 6. So we minus 6. So investment now falls from 12 down to 9 billion. Is that clear? And then part C now, question?
Yes, sir. Sir, you have to go back to the original equation and would start back from the 30 plus 2 minus 6.
It's just, how many marks was it? It was 3 marks. It would be good at least to start back. Just show it like this, that investment, so you start from here, this, and then you'll come back right here and show that it has fallen. Then part C of the question paper now said, sketch the movement in B on a diagram of the market for loanable funds. And remember I said earlier on, the market for loanable funds relates to what? Interest rates. Remember I said it earlier on. That is, if interest rate goes up, we're going to do what? Borrow less money from the banks. If interest rate is cheap, but if it's really low, we're going to borrow more money because it costs us less. So right here, the interest rate went up, right? And the supply of loanable funds decreased from 12 billion to 9 billion. So initially the interest rate was right here at 12 billion, and when the interest rate went up, this now was the quantity of loanable funds supplied. So it went down from 12 to 9. So I have a little explanation beside it that says, in the market for investable, the supply curve shifts to the left because the government is absorbing more of it to finance the government spending. As a result, investment falls from 12 billion to 9 billion. And then the final part to this question paper said, what happens to the rate of interest and the quantity of loanable funds? So what happens to the rate of interest? The rate of interest rises, as you can see from this diagram. It increases, right? And the quantity of loanable funds falls from 12 billion to 9 billion. And then you will have concluded this paper.